Hello, and welcome to the Leading with Andrew show with me, Andrew. I'm so glad you're here. This is a show all about communication and the universal motivation to get better at it. So whether you are an established speaker, or you are facilitating to top executives, or you just want to get better at articulating what it is that you want, I promise you an energized dose of tips and tools. Every episode, I bring you guests who are extraordinary communicators across several industries. So let's get into it. My guest today, John Sanei, is a future strategist, international keynote speaker, advisor to the world's leading Fortune 100 companies, 5 times best-selling author, I have 3 of his signed books here, co-host of award-winning podcast The Expansive, global expert at Singularity University, faculty at Duke Corporation Education, associate partner at the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies, and his latest keynote, the Human-AI Symphony, orchestrating value creation for today and tomorrow. In one of the greatest technological revolutions of all time, AI and human collaboration is becoming an integral part of our world. In his keynote, John shows how AI has evolved from curation to creation, from a tool to an unprecedented personal and work partner. He provides a framework and case studies on how to leverage the interface between humans and artificial intelligence for exponential value creation for your team and organization today and tomorrow. John, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. Now, just to build a bit of context for everybody that's listening and watching, I still remember the first time I saw you speak. It was 2019 at BizGroup headquarters. And this was a time just before Canva became really, really big and people got sort of really professionals at all of the artwork. And I remember you had a slide up on your presentation and it was a mask of these flames sort of indicating something. And I was like, oh my God, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. This guy is so cool. He's so futuristic. Like, how do I get more? And then that's why I purchased 3 of your books. I know you've released another 2 or 3 since Foresight when I saw you speak. But it's just such a pleasure to, 4 years later, have you sitting in front of me and ask you a couple of questions.
Well, great to be here. I remember that talk well. It was great. It was my first time I did work with any BizGroup people. And congratulations for being with them now.
Yes, 3 days in, I'm super excited.
Good.
You have just come off, jumping straight into the questions, you posted something on LinkedIn that I absolutely loved and latched onto. Last year, you did 52 talks across an audience of over 15,000 people. You traveled to 43 cities on 66 flights.
Yep.
How do you do it all?
Well, look, I think the thing is a lot of people ask me if I get tired from the traveling. And my response always is, if you truly, truly love what you do, it's an exciting adventure. And that's really what it is for me. I use my plane time to work, to meditate, and just imagine being in an office somewhere. I just sit on a plane. And I often joke that my office address is 30,000 feet, preferably in business class. So I really think it's at the heart of it is, are you doing what you love? And are you doing what you're supposed to be doing here on earth? And then everything else seems kind of easy. And if you're doing something that's grudgingly doing it, even the smallest thing is a bit of a mission. But moving around the world, arriving, also remember, I've built a career, and Jim Carrey actually said this in an interview. He says, I don't know what I've done right in my life, but everywhere I go, people are exceptionally happy and laughing. So in his real life, everywhere he arrives, they're like, oh my God, it's Jim Carrey. And I'm maybe a fraction of that because every time I arrive at an event, people are excited to see me. I do the talk. They're even more excited afterwards. They're excited to work with me again. So it's such a pocket of energy when you arrive at the event. So it's always fueling me and it's always exciting. So I absolutely love it.
That's amazing. I mean, like your reputation will enter a room wherever you go, right? And I mean, I think the whole of the lobby of the building that we're currently in New York, like, John. So I can definitely be a testament to that. Where did it start for you? Where did you realize when you were growing up or in your early career, where were you like, you know what? I've got a knack for looking at certain data points and going, I see something here. And somebody at some point would have bought into that. Where did it start?
Well, I had no idea nobody was seeing the world like I did. So that was really important. It's like, I just thought everybody saw it like this. And then when I explained things to certain people, they were like, whoa, like, serious? Is that how you see it? And I was like, you don't see it like that? Oh, wow. And it was a process of getting that over and over and over that I realized that what I was saying is unique in some way. And it didn't really start off as speaking. It started off as an agency to help organizations prepare for the future. It was called Future Collective. And in the Future Collective setup, I was the head of sales, our CEO, and I developed this 45-minute sort of sales presentation called Forever Profitable. And I would draw on a whiteboard of how you go about staying forever profitable. And I realized that's what most people wanted from me. They didn't even want the consulting. In fact, I think I'm terrible at consulting because I don't have the patience for it. I'm much better hand grenade, so I'm better to come in, blow it up, and then leave.
He's a big old disruptor.
But disruption also needs to be there for very short periods of time. You can't be there for long periods of time. So I took that 45-minute presentation or sales presentation, I made it a talk.
Okay.
That talk really got received well. And then I thought, well, let me take that talk and make it a book. I made it a book, and the book somehow became a bestseller, which I didn't even know what a bestseller was, to be honest. I thought, let me just put a book out. It became a triple platinum bestseller, which just blew my mind open.
Wow.
And I just kept writing and kept speaking, and people were just kept being interested. In fact, today they're more interested than ever. And all I'm really doing is trying to explain how I want to thrive in a world of uncertainty. And so all the research I do is really for my own development. And then I just package it and teach it so that I can fund more of my own development, which is kind of what's happened.
I love that. And on your website, it clearly says, step into the future with optimism, focus, and energy. And I think that's exactly what you do, is what we were already saying. You bring in the optimism, you bring in the energy, and it's just getting those businesses focused. And you said something there that I really like is you can't disrupt for very long, right? So how do you watch, or are there signs that you see in a business that you go into and you disrupt and they're like, yes, John, this is amazing, and they drink the water and everybody's having a good old time?
Nothing happens afterwards.
There we go.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things there, and I'll explain this. Firstly, the analogy I like to use is there's 3 types of personal trainers, and you got to decide which one you want to be. There's a personal trainer that makes big people thin people fit, and fit people athletes. Very different personal trainers. Yes. I'm a personal trainer that sits with fit people becoming athletes, which means that they're already on the change move. They're already eager to do more. And in organizational structures, that's making a bankrupt company survive, which is making a big person thin, or making an average company a bit better, which is making a thin person fit. I don't want to play with those companies. So the companies I've chosen to work with and I've somehow created as my clients are already eager to change. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing you got to realize is that we can't even change stopping to eat chocolate when we want to individually. When it's a very hard habit to break. Now you want to change a whole organization's habit, it's almost an impossibility. And so what I've decided to do is alleviate the schizophrenia with organizational change, because I don't think organizational change actually works, because the very structure that the Industrial Revolution has created for us, one of economies of scale and efficiency, is not what the future requires. So when you're trying to take an existing business that's built on efficiency and try and make it adaptable, guess what? It ain't happening. So what I've started to help my organizations or my clients do is build tomorrow teams for them. And these tomorrow teams are like a jet fighter next to a Boeing. And these jet fighting people are much more adaptable. Their KPIs are different. The way they show up are different. Their mission is different. It's not about to bring more efficiency to an existing business, but actually build a business that's totally different, that's focused on 2 to 5 years ahead. So I felt the same pain that you're talking about, is that nothing changes. Nothing changes with all humans. And there's a great stat from neuroscience that says we have between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day, of which 90% are the same thoughts as yesterday. Meaning that our brains are familiarity machines. And so on an individual level, it's hard to change. On an organizational level, it's almost impossible to change. And so what I've tried to do is find a new solution, which is to alleviate your schizophrenia, because an organization can't do both. You can't keep the lights on and think disruptively. The skills are different. But because we're addicted to net profit and because we're addicted to efficiencies
NPS as well, yeah.
Yeah, is we want people to do the same person to do both. And so what we do is we ask our existing people to get into a room to think out the box, which is the most terrible corporate line in history of corporates, because you can't think out the box, because your personality and your training and your education has been brought into the organization to bring more efficiencies, not to be disruptive. So I build teams called tomorrow teams, and those tomorrow teams allow that change to really start to take traction.
That's incredible. So like, the tomorrow teams, when you're saying you're building a tomorrow team within a company, is it people that are already in the company that are
No.
volunteering for something like this, or are you bringing people in?
I don't even build it inside the company.
Okay.
It must be sitting parallel to the company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so the most famous tomorrow team is Steve Jobs. When he went back to Apple after he was fired, there was a Lisa computer, which he hated. So he took his top engineers, hired some new engineers, opened up an office away from Apple, put a pirate flag on top of that office, like they were pirates, disruptors. They created the Macintosh. And the Macintosh disrupted the Lisa. And so if you think about it, the tomorrow teams are required because the capabilities, the ambition, the business modeling of it is so vastly different. And the one I use as example today is Shein, you know, the clothing business.
Yeah.
Zara didn't come up with Shein. And Shein is shrinking Zara. And so Zara was worth $19 billion. Today it's worth $12 billion and shrinking. And the reason is that Shein arrived at a brand new business model called economies of learning. And Zara is still playing on the economies of scale. And the executives of Zara couldn't see it. And the executives of Mercedes-Benz couldn't see Tesla. The executives of NASA couldn't see SpaceX. The executives of Google couldn't see OpenAI. So it doesn't matter how smart you are. If you don't have a tomorrow team thinking about things in lateral ways, you're not going to make it. The smartest companies in the world can't make it.
Whoa, my mind's going like 500 miles an hour.
Good.
That's insane. And you were saying you can't get people into an office, the one saying that you hate, you can't get people into a room and say, think outside the box.
It is look, in 1986, when AI wasn't here and technology was very slow, you could do that.
Yeah.
Today, Zara thinking out the box with the smartest people. And look, Zara is an unbelievable organization. They couldn't come up with Shein. Wow. So now, do you think they weren't doing strategy sessions and asking their people to think? Of course they were. And of course they got McKinsey and Accenture, all of them there. With those billions, they got the smartest people in the world. And they couldn't see it. And so you have to almost build a system that only thinks about tomorrow while you have existing people thinking about today. The future is just vastly too different to ask your existing people to think out the box. And I say to all my clients, I said, stop making yourself look ridiculous. Because what you're doing is you're regurgitating yesterday's information with new packaging. And I was working with some banks in South Africa and I was with Investec and I said to Investec, they were doing exactly the same thing. I said, do you think Sanlam's not doing this? Do you think ABSA's not doing this? Taking your existing business and repackaging it? I think, who are you kidding? You're kidding nobody.
Yeah.
And so building in a tomorrow team is really the only way you can actually prepare for tomorrow without making your existing people schizophrenic.
Whoa. Going back to the out-the-box thinking, on your website, you say beyond the box thinking. And I think you've explained that really nicely now. Now, talking about technology, and the one thing that I wanted to add over there as well is maybe sometimes people can't keep up because of the ratio at which we are expanding. Because if you look at how technology was expanding from the 80s to the 90s, that's doubled, if not quadrupled, from 90s to 2000s and up until where we are today. Now, diving into your keynote, the one thing that really stood out for me in how you marketed was liberating professionals from drudgery. Say more.
Yeah. So understand that what's happening at the moment is technology is making a lot of the things that we were paid for free. And so what's happening is that we are still trying to do old pieces of work, which is feeling like drudgery in many ways. But if you start to apply yourself and to start to understand AI and something I call the AI opportunity radar, which is 4 quadrants of how you apply AI into your business, you start to realize that there's different variations of AI at different points of ambition that you can apply that take away drudgery.
Okay.
And so what we've always done, let's use an analogy.
Okay.
In the agricultural era, you and I would be paid to work the fields. When the tractor arrived, you working the fields is irrelevant. Why would you even work the fields? That was drudgery. Yeah. The tractor took it away. We've now got intelligence being replaced by AI, and we're still applying drudgery of intelligence to work when AI can do it much quicker, much easier. But we're so scared of it because we only know what we know, because we're stuck inside our little boxes, because our brains do 90% of the same thoughts as yesterday. So we are fearful of uncertainty and unfamiliarity. That's why optimism is such a superpower, because optimistic in times of certainty is easy. Optimism in times of uncertainty is a superpower. And so when you take all of this and you start to apply it, you alleviate that drudgery from corporates, you alleviate the fear from corporates, you allow them to have a different lens on it, and ultimately become optimistic about adventure and about exploration rather than certainty and efficiencies, which is what we've been trained to do.
And fear of the unknown is pretty. It's a big, high level sort of analogy to apply to these corporates. What do you think is really, when you dig with the companies that you've worked with, what is really rooted in that fear of why aren't we taking the 4-quadrant model that you've developed for AI application? Why aren't we integrating it, and why isn't it easy? Why isn't it easy, John?
So the thing is that it's not a corporate problem, it's a human problem. And the human being is unfortunately being trained for the economies of scale system.
Okay.
Schooling wanted you to fit into a system which was about efficiencies and profitability. We've all been trained in algorithmic intelligence, which is now being replaced by AI. That's fearful, because when farmers got replaced by steam engines, they were fearful because they were like, what are we going to do now? Now, there's a great quote from Einstein that is very applicable to this question is, Einstein says, you cannot solve a problem from the same awareness that created it. And so what we're doing is we're asking existing people from an existing level of awareness, which has been educated to us by the Industrial Revolution structure, to come up with systems and processes and solutions for a world that's not economies of scale, that's not about efficiencies, but about adaptability. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we change our awareness? And the only question we can ask ourselves is, what is awareness? And how do we change it? Because if I don't change it, I can't see any new solutions ahead of me. So we're fearful because our awareness is stuck in industrial revolution thinking. So the question is what is awareness? Yeah. And awareness is your personality. And so what is your personality? Your personality is made up of how you think, act, and feel. And if you're thinking the same thoughts every day, 90% of the time, your awareness is never changing. Now, if you're in survival mode and you've only been trained for this, and the future is changing, you are in anxiousness, frustration, sadness, and anger, no energy to be fascinated, excited, and curious about the future. So you have to just adjust your awareness, which comes with many different tools that you can actually start to change your awareness, because as you start to change your awareness, new solutions start becoming available to you. You know, if you go on holiday, all of a sudden, things that you couldn't figure out while you were in your normal life, all of a sudden become obvious when you're on holiday. What happened? Is you change your awareness. And you change your awareness because you stopped being in a high beta brainwave. And a high beta brainwave is what society is addicted to. You know, everybody seems to be anxious today. And so we all on...
Did you take your anxiety medication?
Anxiety medication.
Yeah.
So what's happened is that high beta brainwave has become the standard, which is a very, very terrible place, because a high beta brainwave says to you that you're in danger. You got adrenaline rushing through you. You never reach the end. You never have enough time. You've got no creativity. You're fearful of anything that's uncertain, because that's what happens to any animal when they're in danger. And so we have to change our brainwave from a high beta to an alpha brainwave. And when you go on holiday, guess what starts happening to you? Your brainwaves start changing. And as your brainwaves start changing to an alpha, all of a sudden your personality starts to change, because your personality is made by how you think, act, and feel. And when your thinking starts changing, your acting starts changing, your creativity starts changing. So what I always ask my organizations is, what are your practices to help your organization's people change their awareness? And they don't even do that. They just keep adding more pressure. And the more pressure...
Party.
Yes, have pizza, have Red Bull. And all that's doing is making you more anxious.
Yeah.
It's not even actually creating more creativity at all in any way. And so really the practice of changing awareness becomes the only solution any organization has.
I think we also stand the risk of, so you're anxious, you're in this brainwave where you're anxious right now because you've got so much going on, you're so busy, you can't come up with these new ideas, and then you start integrating AI, which is now taking away a lot of the drudgery.
Even
so
worse.
You've now got more time on your hands, but this feels so foreign because you're caught in this vicious cycle of anxiety. So then it just perpetuates it even more.
Even more.
And then you just default back to how do you interrupt that?
So there's 5 ways.
Okay.
The first one is trauma healing.
Ooh.
So remember that your personality is made up of these deep entrenched pain points. And when you are traumatized by and also let's remember that most of our memories are false. None of them are actually true.
Okay.
And so what we've done is we've decided to hold on to some subjective story to give us some identity. And so now it's so deeply entrenched that we think that men are dangerous, women are dangerous, money is dangerous, power is dangerous, everything's dangerous.
I heard a question, sorry to interrupt you there. I heard a question once of, who are you without your trauma?
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about it, feminists, they're traumatized. That's all they are. They're traumatized. People that are scared of racism, traumatized. People that are scared of money, grew up with no money. Like, there's all this trauma that's sitting there that has totally infiltrated the way you think, act, and feel, making your personality stuck in some old story. So number one, trauma healing. And trauma healing, family constellation, all sorts of different things, right? There's a leader, our friend. That's why I've done 40 or 50 family constellations with the leader. So I'm a big into trauma healing. And so trauma healing is the first one. The second one is active imagination. And
before you go on there, sorry, John, with trauma healing, there's talk therapy, but there's also sound therapy. There's breath work, somatic breath work as well. And it's that whole big trauma release as well. So I think what I also want to highlight is sometimes talk therapy isn't enough for working through trauma. I think what's really important is that breath work and that full on release of the trauma where you feel it to let it go.
I would even go as far as saying if you're not getting into an altered state, you must probably not releasing the trauma.
Very true.
So altered states come from breath work, come from ayahuasca, come from family constellation's weird because you're not in an altered state, but you kind of are. It's a weird one. But anything that is able to realign your memories so that you have memories with no triggers.
Oh, wow. So no charge, no emotional charge. Yeah.
No charge. Okay. And that's called wisdom. Wisdom is having memories with no triggers.
Sure.
And that only comes from trauma healing.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. So I've fixed my relationship with money. I fixed my relationship with my dad. These are all things that I grew up with incredible levels of anxiousness around me and violence around me, but I've been able to heal them because of all the work that I've been doing around trauma healing, which makes my personality change, which makes my awareness change, which makes what I look for change. So trauma healing is the first one.
Okay.
The second one's active imagination. And what active imagination does, Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. It's the forthcoming attractions to life. Okay. And imagination, if you really want to play with the word, is I magic notion. I make magic.
Yeah.
And so imagination actively towards a world that you want is creating the brain synapses to wire and fire towards a world that you're looking forward to rather than the one that you're stuck in catastrophizing.
Neurons that fire together, wire together.
Dr. Joe. So active imagination is the second one. The third one is play. And it's really important for us to never stop playing. And the reason is they did a study of these kids. NASA was looking to hire geniuses. And so they did a study of these kids and found that 98% of 5-year-olds were geniuses. And as they entered school, their genius started to slow down. And when they left school, only 2% of them were geniuses. And the reason is that we stopped playing, which means we stopped being adaptable.
And stop asking
questions. And I had to follow a system. And so play for adults looks like playing literal games, but laughing and socializing. And what that does, it creates more malleability of the brain, which allows you to let go of old ways of thinking without even realizing you're doing it.
Wow.
Okay? 4, meditation.
Okay.
So I'm a big meditator. I think everybody should be meditating. And most people will say, well, I don't know how or I can't meditate. My brain is too busy. Well, are you saying indirectly that my brain's slow? Which people go, no, I'm not saying that. Well, but then what are you saying? Is if you aren't able to observe your thoughts, you are really stuck in the matrix.
Okay.
And when you start to meditate, you're able to release from the matrix and watch the matrix play out. And you start to realize that you disengage from your thoughts. And a great way to do this, and I made a video about it recently, is to become friends with all your personality traits, name them, and start having conversations with them.
That's a lot to do with shadow work.
Lots to do with shadow work.
Yeah.
And that's when you're not quiet and still enough, you think that you are all your personalities and you're not. Because you have a version of you that's a rebel, you have a version of you that's righteous, you have a version of you that's a martyr, you have a version of, and all of them I've given names to. I've got names for all of them.
Oh, wow.
And I speak to them. And I'm like, hey, it's you again.
How's it?
What's up? What you doing here? Who invited you, dude? So that's stillness and meditation.
Okay.
And then lastly is magic mushrooms and the use of psychedelics. If you look at a brain scan with somebody microdosing and somebody that's meditating, it's exactly the same brain. They can't tell the difference. And the reason is it's calm. And you can only really start to change your brain when it's calm, not when it's stressed. So all of the things I've told you, trauma healing, play, active imagination, meditation, and magic mushrooms all do almost the same thing. They rewire your brain for adaptability and optimism.
What happens when, so say for instance, somebody's on this journey, right? They to keep it in context, they're in a company that's now trying to adapt AI and, working with this interfacing of this AI, and they're on a journey of where they're working through their traumas, they're trying to be able to observe their thoughts, and a real big stressor gets thrown their way and they get thrown back into default. Particularly somebody that's new on the journey to being a lot more calmer. in that environment, what do you do?
So firstly, let's understand that if you're creating drama, you've actually subconsciously created that drama before you've arrived. So if you keep getting that drama coming to you, you haven't done enough work.
Time to look in the mirror.
Exactly. But I think also remember that constantly checking in twice or 3 times a day with your meditation practice is important initially, because the more calmness you bring to yourself, the less drama comes your way. And so because I travel a lot and I meditate a lot and I never have any drama at any airport, and there might be drama, I just don't perceive it as drama.
Okay.
And so like I'm very relaxed about all the things, but I've done so much work to bring that calm state. And it's really elegance. It's like, how can you bring more elegance to your approach to your life? Because when you watch somebody who's impatient, they don't ever look good. No. They look terrible.
Yeah.
But then here we are also throwing our toys out the cot sometimes. So in the corporate scene, what I would always suggest is meditate in the morning, meditate in the evening, and meditate halfway through the day. Keep checking in with that ability for you to stay centered and stay calm. And you know what usually happens when you really start to do the work? You stop working for corporates. Because the whole culture around corporates is based on efficiencies and economies of scale and profitability. And there's very few corporates that aren't able to have that anxiousness because it's built into the system.
Exactly.
Like think about school. Do you ever go to a school that everybody's so calm, relaxed? No, people are anxious. They've got to pass the exams. They've got to, like, there's things to do.
So true.
It's so like entrenched. So, you know, what I find is when people start doing this work, they change careers. Because the very emotional state of that career is already linked to your own emotional quotient.
Can fully relate. Now, with meditation, that's the one thing that I wanted to ask you is, when you say meditate, is it only breath work? Or because I hear people when I say to them, you should try meditation. Oh yeah, you know, I listen to a calming podcast in the morning.
Right.
And that centers my thoughts. I've said that before as well, as opposed to getting into Headspace, for instance, and doing a 10-minute meditation exercise. Meditation, is it only one way to do it?
The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
And I think that many people trick themselves into thinking they're meditating.
Okay.
You know, when I'm on the bicycle, I'm
meditating.
Yeah,
I'm feeling a bit called out now.
Most people do. And you're not alone, right? So most people want to think they're meditating. But if you're not sitting down and clearing your mind of your personality, you're not meditating, dude.
Okay.
So because you're only thinking of one thing, you're still within your own personality. Now, Dr. Joe's got a great line. I only use Dr. Joe meditations. And the reason is that he guides you through them with his voice, and an Emmy Award musician. And so when you combine those two things, and he's very science-based. He's not an airy-fairy guy. You know, he's a 65-year-old Italian man. Everything but airy-fairy, right? He mocks vegans. He mocks everything that's airy-fairy, right?
Yeah.
So I use his meditations. But what he says is this, is that you are somebody somewhere in some time, okay? When you meditate, you become nobody nowhere in no time.
You detach.
You detach from yourself.
Yeah.
And when you stay there long enough, you become everything, everywhere, in all time.
I am you, you are me.
Yeah. Now, if you're not becoming nobody, nowhere, no time, you're not meditating. You're just relaxing.
It's a great benchmark, though.
Yeah, you're just relaxing.
Yeah.
So his meditations take 15, depends how fit you are, but takes 10, 15, 20 minutes and you become nobody, nowhere, no time. Now you've started meditating. It's actually taking you 20 minutes to start meditating.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a 10-minute app, that's not doing anything.
Okay.
It's relaxing you, but it's actually not making you nobody, nowhere, no time. Now remember that all your problems in your life are based on you being somebody, somewhere, in some time. And when you get rid of that somebody, somewhere, in some time, your problems start to dissolve because you've created them. Now, if you're not getting away from yourself, and guess what? Your brain doesn't want to get away from itself. It loves familiarity.
Yeah.
As Dr. Joe says, he says, people become addicted to lives they don't even like.
Oh, and so because we've been told that that's exactly how we should be living.
That's it.
Yeah.
So stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there. No, I hate it. Stay there. No, stay there. No, I don't want to leave because it's unfamiliar. I'd rather know the devil I know than
Better the devil you know.
Yeah, but the truth is that if you're not becoming nobody, nowhere, no time for at least 10 or 20 minutes a day, you're not moving the needle at all, and you're kidding yourself if you think you are.
And how long have you been meditating now?
I have been meditating quite heavily for 3 years. I do about 2-3 hours a day.
Wow.
So this morning I did 90 minutes.
That's incredible. And I, the reason why I wanted to ask you that is because particularly in this region, it's all about that instant gratification.
Yes.
So if I do like 30-minute sessions of meditation, I'm going to be nobody, nowhere, in no time, right?
Yeah.
So I just really want to make that clear that this is a journey, that anybody that starts with meditation and wants to sort of get better at anything it's
fitness.
It's fitness.
No, it's fitness. You can't start running a marathon.
No.
And so you got to start 10 minutes. And look, Dr. Joe's great because he guides you from 20-minute meditations to 5-hour meditations. And you can buy any one of them you want. And his meditations all over YouTube. But because it's guided and because it's got such a deep resonance of music on it, it's taken so much time to make them, And for me, there's actually nobody better because he mixes science and mysticism in the most beautiful way. And I think in our modern life, we all want to believe, but without the basis of science, sometimes we find it hard to believe. And especially as men, you want to have that groundedness of true belief that it actually works. And in all his lectures, he's showing you the science of what's happening to your brain while you're doing it. So you're like, okay, I understand why I need to be doing it. So the process becomes a lot deeper, So I've done 12 Dr. Joe retreats.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And so I keep going because every time I go, I just understand something a bit deeper. I've done his corporate training. So I'm really starting to understand the science behind it much better.
So if you've done his corporate training, when you're talking about your Tomorrow teams, do you bring this element of groundedness into the Tomorrow team so that they understand what their intention is for this business?
So what I do with the Tomorrow team is I build a culture called slow motion multitasking.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it comes from Einstein's work where he would work on 15 papers at the same time and he would exhaust himself with one and then sit in front of the fireplace on a rocking chair and rock himself to half awake, half asleep. This is in his own words.
Okay.
But what he's doing is he's moving himself from somebody somewhere in some time to nobody nowhere in no time. And when he moves himself from this high beta brainwave of trying to solve a problem to the fireplace where he becomes alpha to theta brainwave, he creates a level of stillness that allows for wisdom to fall down, he slows down enough to get that creative juices going. Then he gets up and works on the next paper. And then eventually he launches 5 papers, a combination of all of them. So when you think of a Tomorrow team, you need lateral creativity, not individual creativity or unilateral creativity. You need lateral creativity. And so the Tomorrow team is built on the process of beta to alpha to theta brainwaves without them even knowing it. You don't even have to say that. You just move them through that process so that creativity is constantly lateral and affecting many projects, not just one.
And I think, particularly working from an individual and with your Tomorrow teams, when people start on journeys like this with the 5 points that you were mentioning earlier, with the trauma healing, the meditation, you start to build community and you start attracting the people that are also on that journey with you so that you no longer feel, you perceive yourself to feel alone when you start on something like this. But once you give it time, you start attracting those people around you and you build your community. And I think that's what makes it a lot more sustainable is when you have people that are going along the route with you.
Yes.
That is incredible.
Community broken down as common unity.
There you go.
And so you want common unity with people, but that happens naturally, My closest friends in Dubai are all meditation people. So we do sunrise meditations together, Dr. Joe, and we met all at Dr. Joe, in parts of the world, and now we all live here. So I think it's very helpful to have that community of friends around you. But as you start the journey, that happens naturally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to your keynote, I've still got a couple of questions here as well. I love that. This discussion is incredible. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Say, for instance, now you're integrating AI and it's going well. It's going well in a business. The business is taking it on. And all of a sudden, this free time starts coming up. What do you think people are going to start filling this free time with now? Is it just going to be creativity or could it be potentially something detrimental?
It depends on your trauma.
Oh.
Depends on your unhealed work.
Yeah.
You can get caught up in things that you're not supposed to be doing, or, just judging yourself for things that you should be doing. That's also a fine line. You could be doing things, but you're judging yourself for them. The next person next to you is doing exactly the same thing, doesn't judge themselves at all. And so that really depends on you. I think it's a very individual thing.
Okay.
I think the real thing that we have to realize is that this world that we're moving into requires exactly the opposite types of skills that the economies of scale system required. So let's remember that economies of scale in education required you to fit into a system.
Yes.
Today, the system is imploding. So what's going to now become your superpower is not fitting in, but fitting out, which means that how are you finding your genius as quickly as possible? And when people ask me in my talks, what should we do for our kids? I said the number one thing you should do for your kids is expose them to as many different types of businesses, ideas, careers, books as possible. Because what starts to happen, you can only really connect the invisible dots to your own genius through exposure. And once you've been exposed to lots of things, you start to create your own very unique type of, I don't know, information stream. Now, if you think about, have you ever watched a show called Chef's Table?
I've heard of it, I haven't watched it, no.
And it's about the top 50 chefs in the world. And all of them are pretty much the same story. They all went to Paris to learn how to cook. They try to apply the same principles when they're back home. It became a failure. They got cancer, broke down. All things happened. Then they found their unique voice with food, which everybody has their own unique voice in something. And when they created their own unique voice with food, they became one of the top chefs in the world. Now, it's our job in today's world to find our own uniqueness.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. And once you find that, you don't have free time because you're so engrossed in what it is that you love so much that you don't have time for the bullshit. You're only in there. So people say to me, how do you come up with everything you're doing? Like, my most exciting thing is to listen to things about AI and self-development and Dr. Joe. And these are what I do naturally.
Yeah.
I just am able to package them and sell them as a educational stream. But now all of us have got this. We just have to find what makes our own unique golden dots connect. And once we do that, you don't have to worry about whether you have time or not time or whatever. That's irrelevant.
It's so true. And I remember in the talk that I saw you speak at Biz Group, I think one of the questions that somebody asked you was, okay, John, that's great. Yes, unique. You've got to be unique, but what makes you unique? And I think it was one thing that I held on to. One of the many things that I held on to is what makes you unique is a combination of what makes you curious.
Yeah, it's curiosity.
Yes.
Your curiosity, fascination, and excitement is
There we
your
go.
soul's message to you that you're on purpose.
There we go. Okay.
You know, we don't give enough credit to curiosity and excitement as an emotion. And that emotion says, when you're curious and excited, guess what? You have so much energy.
Yes.
You never run out of energy.
Exactly.
So
It's so true.
So you ask me, how do I do 66 cities in 50?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Okay.
So everywhere I arrive, I'm like curious, I'm learning, I'm constantly energized. And so you realize that when you're constantly energized, you never run out of things to research. Nobody has to force you to sit down and write a paper. Nobody. You willingly doing it yourself because you're just so in love with what you're doing. And so I think education, the worst thing education did was get us to disengage from our genius. Because if you were following your genius at school, you know what you were called? A troublemaker.
That's true.
You're a troublemaker.
Yeah.
You're not fitting into this.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So get out the class.
Yeah.
You're not listening. Well, I don't want to listen to your crap because, I mean, I was a terrible student. I got expelled twice. I never finished school. I mean, I did, but hardly.
Yeah.
And I never went to university because I just wasn't the thing for me.
Yeah.
And I left school defeated because I thought to myself, well, I'm such a dumb.
Yeah.
And I didn't have money. My mom was poor. So we were poor and I was dumb. And I was like, oh my God, this life is just going to get worse and worse. And then I realized, school's only made for 25% of the human population. The rest of us is trying to squeeze ourselves into this system
Mold.
created by some white guy in London, 250 years ago.
What is this? So, we're talking about uniqueness. We're talking about interfacing AI into businesses and, future-proofing and getting businesses ready for what's coming with AI and the rate at what it's developing. What is that going to do for the human connection when people are almost solely relying on AI moving forward?
I think it's going to increase the value of human connection.
Okay.
Exponentially. And I think that community will become one of the most sought after technologies of the future.
Okay.
And if you think about one of the happiest countries in the world, Denmark,
Yes.
they on average belong to 3.4 little communities, each person in Denmark. So on a Tuesday, they're saunaing. On a Thursday, they book club. On a Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think what's going to start happening is that with our free time, we're going to start to find new communities being formed around meditation, around whatever it is that you want to be doing because you have this free time. And so now we'll realize that working so many hours a day is actually an old construct that's not really necessary. When things become ubiquitously available to us, and most people think, no, things are becoming more and more expensive. Well, I ask, when's the last time you paid for a CD?
Oh,
When do you pay for music? No, you don't. And remember with your cell phone bill many years ago, today you're on WhatsApp and Zoom. And you remember when you used to go pay for movies and VHS and DVD, today you got so much entertainment thrown at you. And if you start taking this extrapolation of technology, everything will become free around us. Everything. So you have a lot of free things around us. You have a lot of time around you. And I think our ability to connect, the time we'll have to connect, will start to become exponentially more, and we'll start to prioritize those more than ever.
Talking about all of these things that are now free and all of these options, and do you think we'll get to a point where it's too much choice?
No, I think AI will start helping us make choices. So think about, and most people go, no, I don't want that. I don't want AI making choices for me. And I'm like, well,
bring it on.
Do you use Google Maps? AI is already telling you what to do and where to go. And do you listen to Spotify? Yep. AI is already telling you what music to listen to. And you watch YouTube.
Did you get your
it's already
Spotify Wrapped?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So AI is already so integrated itself into us. And I think it's going to be fantastic because if I don't have to think about what I have to eat, it's going to tell me what to eat, what my body needs. I don't have to binge around certain things. It's going to tell me what education I need to have and how I need to go about it. And so people say, well, I don't want to take agency away from me. I'm like, well, the truth is you're already losing agency and you're making decisions about bullshit stuff anyway.
Exactly.
So if it can help you make better decisions, why not allow it to, so you can actually be more human than ever before?
Absolutely.
So I think we're moving towards a much more human future than ever before by getting all the drudgery taken away from us.
Talking about drudgery, and it's an example that it's just popped into my head, and it's the same question that every human being asks themselves every single night: is what am I going to eat for dinner?
Yes.
And there was a meal delivery plan that I was doing about a month ago that the AI was telling me what I was going to have for dinner, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And it just echoing what you were saying earlier about, do you listen to Spotify? Do you use Google Maps? Things like that. Is people go, oh yeah, but if I give my thumbprint or my Face ID, the government's going to have my details. Well, you've got a social security number, maybe.
Well, look, again, remember that comes from a place of anxiousness, fear,
There
of
we go.
unfamiliarity.
Absolutely.
When you apply yourself to these things in an optimistic, excited, curious way, I don't know, it's just like there's no danger for me. And some people might say you're foolish or you're not aware enough. And my response always is, let's say the pessimists are all right. And let's say that AI does eat us and we become slaves and the government, let's say, right?
Yeah.
I just had a better time until that happened. And you didn't.
And you're living in the present.
Exactly.
That's the most important part, is you're in the present.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. And let's say we get eaten in 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, but up until 6 months, I was having a wonderful time.
And
you were
great recommendations on Spotify.
Yeah, and you were just having a terrible time fearing it, which I actually think if you start thinking about quantum science and you start thinking about reality creation, and more we're finding out about it, you truly are creating your own reality. And if you're fearful all the time, guess what? You keep confirming it. It's almost like people that are worried about racism will find racism everywhere.
Yeah.
And feminists will find misogyny everywhere.
Absolutely.
And people that are worried about money will find money issues everywhere because that's what you programmed to look for. So stop looking for it and it stops becoming an issue. And I know this because I was bankrupt at 30 and I'm doing really well now.
Awesome.
So my relationship with money has changed and I had to work at that.
Okay.
Like everything else.
Yeah. And this is what people think as well when it comes to, oh yeah, I'm going to put my vision board together and things like that. Yeah, you can put a vision board together, but you've actually got to do the work.
Yeah.
So don't let your brain trick you into thinking you've already got that.
Yeah.
You're working towards it and it's great to feel that, but you've still got to put the work.
That's where active imagination comes in. Is when you're actively sitting there 10 minutes a day feeling like you're in there. This is what Dr. Joe does. It's like actively helps your brain to rewire and refire.
That's incredible. What is the ideal future for us and AI and interfacing it?
Look, I think technology is neutral and has always been neutral. And today we have two types of governments. We have digital dictatorships and blockchain democracies using the same technology.
Wow.
And so I don't think there's one answer. I think there's multiple answers. But I think if you think about AI as a unprecedented partner to live a better life and to utilize it like that, which is what I do. I say please and thank you to ChatGPT all the time.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Oh my word,
I'm like,
absolutely.
dude, and I thank it all the time.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming back and saying, look, I'm not a human. Stop thanking me. But I'm like, I can't help myself. It's just the way I've been. I like to be polite. But I'm using it in a way that allows me to bring more seamlessness, more empathy to the world that I'm with. And so the ideal situation is for you to be open-hearted and empathetic with everything you do, including AI. And I think what's going to happen is the corporate structure as we know it is going to start fading.
Okay.
Because the corporate structure as we know it was built for efficiencies. And the future is not about efficiency, it's about adaptability. And Peter Diamandis, the founder of Singularity University, was on his podcast recently. He said, we're about to see the first 3-person billion-dollar company being formed. And so you don't need corporation size and efficiencies.
Yeah.
Now think about Instagram. It had 12 people and was sold for $1 billion. Now extrapolate that down and you'll soon have a 2-man, 3-man, 4-man company worth a couple $1 billion. So the whole corporate structures and essence will start to get replaced by AI and these certain other things. And also let's remember the way we've been measuring success has always been currency based on dollars. And that's also going to start to change, because when things becoming free everywhere around us, what success looks like changes.
Yes.
And we've also got to start to become open towards what success looks like. Exactly. It's not like it is now with more zeros on the end.
Yeah.
It's about a different type of fluidity. It's a different type of emotional currency that we quite don't understand yet. Yeah. But I don't think anybody in the agricultural era understood IQ because it wasn't important. So AQ and AQ, adaptability quotient, and EQ become the currencies of the future. We don't quite know how they'll be monetized or whatever money will be in the future. But I think there'll be a recalibration of what success actually is. And AI will help us do that.
I think that's brilliant. And, you know, just in sort of, before I ask you a final question and rapid fire questions, is take people along the journey with you. If that's my only advice to anybody that's watching and listening, is if you're finding out and you're learning all about this and you're integrating AI into your life, share it. Share it with other people that might be too scared to log on to ChatGPT and ask it a question and say please and say thank you.
Well, look, there's a great line from Yogi Bhajan. He says, if you want to learn something, read about it. If you want to understand something, write about it. If you want to master something, teach it.
I love it.
And so the more you teach it, the better you become at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So one last big question before I ask you rapid fire questions. When your life is going 140 kilometers down a highway, what do you do? You've kind of answered it already, but if there's anything that you want to add onto this, what do you do to reconnect with yourself outside of meditation?
It's an internal dialogue of continuously, and this is really something so important. I was with a friend this morning and I was talking to him about it, is I've really started to apply a deep friendship with myself.
Okay.
And an internal dialogue that is one of uplifting, not one of demeaning. And I think for the longest time, we've been so self-critical that our poor bodies are never in shape enough, are never powerful enough. Our faces aren't ever perfect enough. It's like this constant lambasting of ourselves, you know? And that's based on a high beta brainwave. And the minute you move yourself off that onto an alpha brainwave, you become friends with the world and yourself. And so really what I do is I keep checking in with the quotient of friendship that I have with myself. And it starts first thing in the morning, because the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, the internal dialogue is, I am who I am, and that's enough. And if I can keep that momentum going and continuously speak to my body like I would to a dog that I love, then there's nothing really that can go wrong. Because I'm constantly in a space of peace with myself, which is really the mission. The more important mission than anything else, to be honest.
That's incredible. Oh my word, you've given us so much today, John. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap it up with some rapid fire questions. So we're looking for like 1 word, 2 words maximum.
I don't know if I can do that.
So what is one thing you learned through experience that if you learned it sooner in your life would have changed the course of your life?
Patience.
Haha, love it. 3 songs on your playlist, and why do you love them?
I don't know what songs they are anymore. You know, I listen to genres.
Okay.
So on Spotify, I have a couple songs. I don't even know what they're called, but I have them on repeat.
Oh, really?
So I don't actually know what they are.
I love it. No, that's brilliant. Have you ever used Endel?
No.
Endel is an app that uses your heart rate, time of day, and AI to create beats based on what you want to do. Focus, relax, meditate, things like that.
I'll be downloading that afterwards.
Oh,
Thank you.
You're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it. What do people get wrong about you all or most of the time?
There's a great line that I read the other day. It said, if you have a problem with me, call me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me. So I love that. Yeah, so I don't know what people think of me, to be honest. Brilliant. And the people that I do hang around with know exactly who I am. I'm always coming in I try and be as empathetic and interested in other people as possible.
Okay.
And I ask as many questions as possible about people, which people find a bit weird because most people are talking about themselves most of the time. And I'm highly interested in what makes people tick. So I think people appreciate the fact that I've just interested in what they're doing and who they are.
I love it. Number one travel hack, Mr. 66 cities, 43 cities.
It's so funny, you know, I was just rethinking my whole travel itinerary and the way I do it. And I'll tell you what it is. It's the ability to upgrade to business class. And that doesn't always happen. Let me tell you.
That's the
No, that
dream.
doesn't always happen. But
Okay.
80% of the time, I'm getting it right. So
Brilliant.
I think that would be, and also, I think maybe more importantly is rehydrate.
Yes.
Rehydrate on the plane.
Yeah.
Make sure you're drinking a lot of dehydration on the plane as much as possible. Your body's really taking strain up there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Brilliant. You're on a private jet. You can have 3 people with you, famous or not famous. Who are they and what are you talking about?
Obama, Nelson Mandela, and Jesus Christ.
Whoa! What are we talking about?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would think, I love Obama. I just the way he's able to present in a calm, elegant, powerful way. Coming from South Africa and having Madiba as a global icon, and so proud of what he did for our country.
Yeah.
And Jesus, I'm not even religious, but I think Jesus brought a consciousness to humanity that is still 2,000 years on, still on the go. I mean, think about the power that he brought. And so, I don't know what we'd talk about, but it'd be an interesting chat.
I'm going to be there. I'm buying that business class ticket for that. Right, final rapid fire question. Finish the sentence. Getting better at communication is?
Listening.
I love that. I absolutely love that. John, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Where can we go and find you and connect with you the best way? Website?
8 billion people in the world, and I'm the only John Sanei out there. I have no idea how I lucked out, but there's no other John Saneis in the world. I've Googled it.
Word.
And so anytime you Google John Sanei, I'll be on a podcast, The Expansive.
The Expansive, yes.
Or on Instagram or LinkedIn, where I'm constantly sharing whatever I'm researching. Yesterday, I did a talk about how AI is deciphering animal communication. And now we're starting to realize that dolphins all have names and they speak multiple languages. And
my God.
and that plants that are dehydrated are sending out a different message that plants are in healthy spaces. And the voice of plants is as loud as a human voice, just on a different frequency. We can't hear it. So AI is starting to get us to realize that everything is communicating. We just haven't listened to it. So that was yesterday on Instagram. So go find me there.
And you're on a communications podcast. So what a brilliant way to end. Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure.
Well, there you go. Another episode on communication. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, connect with us on Instagram at Leading with Andrew.